So if you spent a century living in orbit on a space station, you would literally time travel 1 second into the future compared to all your friends down on Earth.
Wait, like actual time travel just from being in
Yeah,
space?
literally. It's a proven fact. But what if I told you that time itself isn't even a fundamental rule of the universe? Like, what if the past, the present, and the future are actually all happening at exactly the same time, and time is just a persistent illusion?
I mean, that completely breaks my brain. But if we actually look at the fundamental physics of the universe, the flow of time that we feel every single second of our lives might not be a real physical thing at all. It might just be an illusion.
Welcome to the Missing Lessons, where we explain what school never did.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a massive deep dive into the concept of time. And the reason this matters to you is that understanding what time actually is will fundamentally change how you view reality, how you handle everyday stress, and ultimately, how you live your life.
And hey, if you're enjoying the missing lessons, make sure to follow the podcast, leave a rating, and share it with someone who might find it interesting. It helps us create more episodes and reach more curious minds.
Right, so I want to start by anchoring us in reality, because before we can start talking about quantum mechanics or the universe, we have to address the giant elephant in the room.
Which is, if time isn't real, why does the sun keep setting? And why am I always late for class?
What's that? Or, why does milk go bad in the fridge? Events clearly happen in a specific sequence. You obviously can't eat lunch before you eat breakfast.
Yeah, that's the most natural pushback. We experience things sequentially.
Right. And the answer lies in the fact that we constantly mix up two entirely different concepts. We confuse change with time.
Change in time. Okay, break that down for me.
So change is a physical reality. In fact, change might literally be the only constant physical fact of the entire universe. From subatomic particles vibrating to the cells reproducing in your body to the actual rotation of the planet. I mean, everything is in a constant state of motion.
So we're just completely surrounded by unstoppable physical transformation.
Exactly. But we don't just observe that change. We categorize it. Human beings are hardwired to crave stability.
Right.
We want to feel safe. And, to feel safe, we have to be able to predict our environment.
Right. We need to know when the sun is going down or like when the crops are going to freeze so we don't starve.
Exactly. So we invented a mental framework to measure all of this chaotic physical change. And we call that measurement time. Time itself isn't a fundamental force. It's just a ruler we invented to measure motion.
Okay, so time is just a ruler. That's an interesting way to put it.
Let me use an analogy that makes it super clear. Think about a unit of measurement like inches or centimeters. Inches don't actually exist out in the physical world.
Right, I can't just go find an inch lying on the ground.
Exactly. You can't go out into the vacuum of space and capture a jar full of raw inches. They are just a concept. They're a standardized tool we invented to measure length. And time operates the exact same way. It does not exist on its own.
So you're saying if we completely removed change from the universe, like if absolutely nothing moved, not a single atom vibrated, time would just disappear.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Without physical change, there is literally nothing to measure. Time vanishes.
Wow.
And I'd ask the listener, have you ever noticed this in your own life? Have you ever been in a situation where absolutely nothing was happening? Maybe sitting in a totally silent waiting room without your phone, and it felt like time literally stopped.
Oh, yeah, completely. When nothing around you is changing, it feels like time just stalls out.
Right. When environmental change drops to zero, our perception of time stalls. But that leads me to a massive practical question. If time is just a mental framework we invented to track change, why is it causing us so much intense visceral anxiety every single day?
Well, I think it's because we feel anxiety when we fail to separate the practical use of time from the emotional burden of time.
Exactly. We experience this measurement in two completely different ways. We have what we can call clock time, and then we have psychological time.
Clock time and psychological time. Okay, I think this is where people can really get some actionable advice. Let's define clock time first.
Yeah, clock time is exactly what it sounds like. It's the practical, utilitarian tool we use to navigate the physical world. It's, setting an alarm to catch a bus, or scheduling a meeting with your boss, or looking at a recipe that says bake the chicken for 30 minutes.
Right, it's purely functional. It keeps you grounded in reality and helps us collaborate with other people.
Exactly. But then you have psychological time. And that is the mental space where human beings manufacture their own suffering.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's when you're physically sitting in a perfectly safe, quiet room, but your mind carries you away, trapping you in your own head.
Yes. You're agonizing over a mistake you made 5 years ago, or you're spiraling into an absolute panic about a presentation you have to give next week.
Yeah, like a university student stressing over final exams or a young worker panicking about a massive project deadline.
Exactly. If you look at what is actually happening to that student in the exact present moment, their physical reality is completely safe. They're just sitting at a desk, breathing in and out. The stress isn't coming from the actual physical work happening right now.
It's coming entirely from operating in psychological time. They're basically experiencing the future as if it's already crushing them in the present.
Right. Which is an incredibly heavy burden for the human brain to carry. Our biological stress response was designed for immediate present moment physical threats, like running away from a bear.
Not for enduring a multi-week panic about next month's rent.
Exactly. So here is the actionable advice to stop living in that state of panic and how you can actually become mentally healthier right now. You have to recognize that the past and the future do not exist anywhere except as thoughts in your head.
And those thoughts are actively happening in the present moment.
Yes. The present is the only place life has ever happened or will ever happen. So you have to actively step out of psychological time. When you catch your brain spiraling into those endless what-ifs, you have to force yourself to return to what is real right now.
So like physically ground yourself.
Yeah.
Look at the room you're in. Feel the chair you're sitting in.
Exactly. Use clock time to make a practical schedule, sure, but do not let psychological time convince you that the future is currently attacking you.
I love that. That's deeply powerful for everyday life. But I want to shift our perspective away from human psychology for a minute and look at the vastness of the physical universe.
Oh yeah, because this is where reality gets incredibly weird.
Right, because while it's comforting to say time is just in our heads, a clock is a physical machine. I mean, most people assume a second is a second everywhere in the universe, right? Like there's some universal metronome ticking away in the background.
Right, you'd assume a minute on Earth is the exact same as a minute on Mars. But physics completely shatters that assumption. Time is not a steady universal constant. It's actually a flexible, stretchable fabric.
Wait, stretchable? How does time stretch?
So the rate at which time flows actually depends on two physical properties,
Hmm.
your speed and the gravitational pull you're experiencing. This is the core of relativity.
Okay, I get the concept, but I really want to dig into the how and why of this.
Yeah.
How does gravity physically stretch time?
Okay, so you have to picture space and time not as two separate things, but as a single woven fabric called space-time. Imagine a really taut, stretched-out trampoline.
Oh, okay, I'm picturing it.
Now, if you place a heavy bowling ball right in the center of that trampoline, it creates a deep dip in the fabric, right? That bowling ball is a massive planet like Earth, and that dip is gravity.
Right, so the fabric bends around the heavy object.
Exactly. And because the actual fabric of space-time is physically bent by mass, anything moving through it, including light, and therefore time itself, has to travel a longer curved path.
Oh, wow. So the deeper you are in that gravitational dip, the slower your time moves compared to someone further away from it.
Precisely. So it's not a mechanical error of a clock. The actual geometry of reality is distorted. For example, if you put a clock on a high-speed train, it literally ticks slightly slower than a stationary clock sitting at the station.
Wait, seriously? Just from being on a train?
Yeah. In fact, there was a super famous experiment where they took atomic clocks and flew them twice around the world on commercial airplanes. When they landed, the clocks on the planes lagged behind the grounded clocks by 50 billionths of a second.
That is insane. So a second literally isn't a second everywhere.
Right. And gravity does the same thing. If you live a mile above sea level, like up in the mountains, time actually ticks slightly faster for you than it does for someone living down at the beach.
Because the person in the mountains is further away from the Earth's center of mass, so they feel slightly less gravity?
Exactly. And if you take it to the extreme, like at the edge of a black hole, gravity is so unimaginably strong that time practically stops completely. Space and time literally swap roles.
Okay, that is mind-blowing. But how does this actually affect us today? Like, does this warp in time impact our normal lives?
Oh, it absolutely does. Think about the GPS in your phone. It relies on a network of satellites orbiting the Earth, way out in space.
Right, and since they are further from Earth's gravity, their clocks must tick faster than ours down here.
Exactly. But they're also moving at roughly 14,000 miles per hour. And as we mentioned, speed also warps time. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time.
So those satellites are dealing with two competing forces. Their high speed slows their time down, but the weak gravity speeds their time up.
Yes. And when you calculate the net difference, the clocks on those satellites are ticking at a measurably different rate than the phones in our pockets. If our technology didn't actively run complex algorithms to constantly correct this warping of time, our maps and navigation apps would be completely useless.
Wow. So within a single day, your GPS would be completely wrong if it didn't account for time travel, basically.
Yeah, it would be off by miles. The entire modern world relies on the fact that time is flexible.
Okay, but this raises a huge question for me. If time is completely flexible and it bends around gravity and speed, does that mean the past still exists out there somewhere? And does the future already exist?
That brings us to perhaps the most mind-bending concept in all of modern physics. It's called the block universe. Because space-time is a geometric structure, physics suggests that time doesn't flow from the past through the present and into the future.
Wait, then how does it work?
The theory suggests that the past, the present, and the future actually all exist simultaneously in an eternal, four-dimensional block. The feeling we have of time flowing is just a stubbornly persistent illusion.
Okay, I think I need an analogy for this one. This is where you might lose people.
Fair enough. Instead of thinking of time as a river that we are floating down, think of the universe as a giant vinyl record.
Okay, a vinyl record, I'm with you.
Every single song on that album, the first track, the middle track, the final track, it all already exists, perfectly pressed into the wax, right? The songs are simultaneous.
Right, the whole album is just sitting there.
Exactly. Your birth, you listening to this exact deep dive right now in the end of the universe, they are all just different grooves on the same record. The physical record is the block universe.
Okay, that makes sense, but then why does it feel like we're moving forward?
Because our human consciousness is simply the needle of the record player moving over the grooves. The needle only experiences one note at a time, which creates the illusion of a flowing song. But the entire album is already there. Yesterday and tomorrow are just different coordinates on the vinyl record.
Okay, I have to play the skeptic here. I want to aggressively push back on that.
Go for it.
If the future is already there on the record and all of time exists at once, why do we only remember the past? And why does cause always come before effect? Like if I drop a glass on the kitchen floor, it shatters. Why do those pieces never magically unshatter and fly back up into my hand?
That is the ultimate challenge to the block universe. And the answer isn't actually found in time itself. It is found in thermodynamics. Specifically, the concept of entropy.
Entropy. Okay, remind me what that is.
Entropy is the fundamental rule that the universe always transitions from a state of order to a state of disorder. It's the arrow of time.
But why? Why is disorder inevitable?
It just comes down to sheer mathematical probability. Think about that dropped glass. There is only one exact arrangement of atoms that creates a perfectly structured, usable glass cup.
Right.
But there are trillions upon trillions of possible ways those atoms can be arranged as a messy pile of shattered shards on the floor.
Ah, I see. So once the glass breaks, the mathematical odds of all those chaotic pieces perfectly hitting the exact singular arrangement required to be a whole glass again are just
Yep.
statistically impossible.
Exactly. The universe naturally moves toward states that have the highest number of possible arrangements, which is chaos. This overwhelming progression from order to disorder is what creates the arrow of time. It forces a strict rule of cause and effect in our everyday lives.
So the math of entropy acts like a one-way valve, making us feel like time only flows forward.
Precisely. But here is where it gets even crazier. I specified our everyday lives. What happens when we zoom way down to the microscopic level of the universe? Down to quantum physics.
Oh, quantum physics. Things always get weird there.
They really do. At the subatomic level, looking at individual photons and electrons, that arrow of time completely vanishes. The strict rule of entropy doesn't apply to a single particle.
Wait, really? So cause and effect just stop working?
Yeah, the mathematical equations of quantum mechanics actually work perfectly backward and forward. The line between cause and effect blurs entirely.
How does that actually manifest? Give me an example, because cause and effect blurring sounds like literal magic.
It does. It manifests in experiments where physicists fire a particle, like a photon of light, toward a barrier with two slits. The photon has to choose a path. But here's the bizarre part. If the scientists wait until after the photon has passed through the slits to decide how they are going to measure it, their present moment decision actually determines the path the photon took in the past.
Hold on, you're saying an observation made right now in the present changes the physical state of the particle in the past?
Yes. It's wild. And then you have quantum entanglement, where two particles become linked. Whatever happens to one instantly happens to the other, even if they are billions of light years apart.
Right, I've heard of that.
But recent physics suggests this entanglement doesn't just link them across space, it links them across time, too. Because of this absolute subatomic chaos, modern physics is beginning to suggest that time might not be a fundamental property of the universe at all. It might just be an illusion generated by quantum entanglement.
Okay, wait. I want to pull us out of the quantum realm and bring this back down to the actual society we live in, because this is confusing.
Sure, let's ground it.
If fundamental physics is telling us that time is an illusion, that it stretches around gravity, and that at a quantum level cause and effect are totally scrambled, why are we so obsessed with it?
What do you mean?
I mean, why are there massive government laboratories right now using atomic clocks to measure time down to a quadrillionth of a second? Why the global obsession with tracking every millisecond?
That is a great question. And it's because the rigid global management of time that we all live under is not a law of nature. It's a human technology.
Mhm.
And it is deeply tied to the rise of authority, industrialization, and capitalism.
I want to push back a little on the idea that we just invented strict time to control behavior. What about biological circadian rhythms? We were tracking time long before the Industrial Revolution. Our bodies know when to sleep and when to wake up.
You are absolutely right about circadian rhythms, but there is a massive difference between biological time and industrial time. For almost all of human history, we lived by natural biological time. You worked when the sun was up, you rested when it was down. Time was fluid and local.
Right, noon was simply whenever the sun was highest in your specific village.
Exactly. But you couldn't run a global railroad network like that. When the Industrial Revolution hit and railroads started connecting distant cities, local time became a massive problem.
Oh, because if every town has a different definition of 1:00 p.m. based on the sun, the trains would literally crash into each other.
Exactly. So corporations and governments had to standardize time. They created time zones. Suddenly, time wasn't tied to the sun or biology. It was an artificial grid forced over the globe to coordinate society.
Wow. So we needed a grid to keep workers productive and society moving.
Yes, and over time, that grid rapidly became hyper-precise. Today, we need to coordinate global flight paths, ensure stock markets can execute high-frequency trades in milliseconds, and keep factories running smoothly. The obsession with atomic clocks isn't about understanding the universe. It's about economic efficiency.
Which brings us back full circle to why we are all so stressed out.
Exactly. We are biological creatures, evolved to follow the slow, fluid cycles of the sun. We were not designed to be synchronized to a quadrillionth of a second. We feel burned out because this artificial, hyper-precise economic structure is being forcefully mapped onto our natural human experience.
I want to turn this over to you listening. Which explanation do you find most convincing? Is time a physical dimension that we are moving through, or is it mostly just a societal tool used to keep us productive? And really, what would you do if you didn't have to live by the clock?
And building on that, here's a question for you. If you could stop measuring your life by psychological time, if you could truly stop agonizing over the past and panicking about the future, and only use clock time for purely practical things, how would your daily routine change? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, leave a comment. It's an incredible amount of reality-shifting information to process today. But to summarize the core of what we've unpacked, at a baseline, time is just a human measurement of change.
Right. And in the physical universe, it gets warped by speed and gravity.
Exactly. Down at the quantum level, the whole concept of cause and effect gets totally scrambled. And in our daily lives, time is mostly a societal tool that we absolutely should not let dictate our mental health.
Well said. And I want to leave you with one final kind of haunting thought about the deep, deep future.
Oh boy, okay, let's hear it.
We know the universe is expanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as it expands, it is stretching space-time along with it. If we look through a telescope at a distant exploding star, the explosion literally looks like it's happening in slow motion, simply because the space and time between us and that star are being stretched out.
Wow, it's literal time dilation caused by the universe expanding.
Right. Now, imagine trillions upon trillions of years from now. The universe will have expanded so much that it will eventually grow completely cold. The era of stars will end. They will all burn out. All matter and energy will be perfectly, evenly spread out across an infinite dark vacuum.
No, just total emptiness.
Yes. And in that state of maximum entropy, nothing will happen. There will be no motion, no planets rotating, no atoms crashing together, no light traveling. And because there will be absolutely no change, time itself will lose its direction completely. Time only exists because things are happening right now.
That is heavy. Well, if you enjoyed this episode of The Missing Lessons, don't forget to follow the podcast, leave a rating, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us continue exploring the topics school never taught us.